Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is James and I'm continuing on with my Balsa USA Smoothie 40 kit build. So in this video I'm going to be moving on to constructing the wingtips. So here's the plans showing the wingtips, and let me bring out some of the wood. So the kit gives you a piece of, like a block piece of balsa to go on the tip like that. That'll have to be obviously shaped. And then you also get these sort of wing edge pieces. There's two of these. They get sandwiched together and they form this piece out here. And then you also get these ribs. There's two of these ribs. There's sort of a shorter one and a longer one. The shorter, kind of stubbier one goes right along the back of the block. It comes off the main spar. And then the long, kind of skinnier one is this guy right here. Okay, well, if you are building this kit, one thing to note when you look at the instructions, and again, these instructions predate, I think, the latest version of the kit parts, because they show a rectangular block in this portion of the wingtip that has to be shaped, obviously. So what they do in the instructions is they go on talking about how they recommend, or they tell you to use tracing paper to kind of come up with the curve and then transfer that onto the block and then carve it and all that. Well, they kind of did you a big favor in this most recent version. They cut the block for you, at least that part, so it makes it a lot easier. All right, so the first thing I want to do is take these out of their thingamajig. Again, these are very nicely laser cut parts in this kit. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is glue these guys together. Let me grab some gloves. Alright, so I need to be careful to make sure I get these lined up nicely against each other. Kind of an awkward shape to be working with. Okay, I'm going to start with this skinnier side. I'm good here. Put a little bit on here, soak it in. Okay. All right, good. I'll put that down here. God, and again. One thing I noted is some people, when I've read some of the forums and such about this kit, is some people don't do the wingtips the way the kit has it. They take just a block of wood, just a solid block of wood, and then they just kind of form, just that they put the block of wood on here just like this, right? And then they just shape it that way, and they just kind of make a solid wingtip out of it. That's probably a good idea. I don't mind that idea, but I'm just going to go with the kit. I got the parts, and I'm just going to carry on with the instructions, but that is a good option. All right. I'm not going to sand too much right now. I'm going to kind of wait. I'll get some of the little bit of the glue junk off the edge. All right. Okay, so this is going to go, oops, like that. All right, so this little rib goes right behind the main spars like that. And then it also has to be obviously perpendicular to the rib. So because of that, I thought it would be easier to kind of put the wing on end like this, and then to go ahead and do it sort of standing up. So I'm going to use my square I have, and this is what I'm going to use to keep it basically at a 90-degree angle. And then I'll line it up right here, and then I'll hit it with the CA. The key is not to glue my square onto the wing. So okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to line this up here. All right, well, I had a little problem with my video, a little technical difficulty, but in any case, I glued it and I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. So anyhow, I glued it here. I used the square to obviously make it at a 90-degree angle, and I tacked it on, and I think it looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and give it some more glue now that I know that it's nice and straight, and that should be good. So hopefully that came out okay. Okay, well, since this is a big block of wood, I'm going to go ahead and just use this just basic wood glue, this tight bond wood glue, to kind of get in the center so I can get a good bond sort of down in the middle here in this corner and along the center of the rib. Because the CA glue probably won't soak in, or basically won't reach those areas before it actually cures. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here like that, and then I guess I'll do a strip. My little applicator is kind of plugged up here. Well, it's really plugged up. I don't need a whole bunch, it's probably too much. I don't want it squirting out. Okay, that'll be good. This block is a little bit, it's a little bit actually thinner than the rib itself. That's okay because it's going to be shaped. Let's get it down here. Okay. All right, now for this guy. This guy goes right to the edge there. You really can't, you don't have a lot of, it looks kind of, you know, awkward and weird because it's this weird shape and you think maybe you'll get it crooked, but really it is pretty thick and it stands up pretty nice, and it can really only go in one spot. It can only go on this tip right here and right there like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my CA. And it hangs over because of the ailerons are going to be right there. So put that guy there. Soak that on there. So I'm just trying to line up the seam here with the seam. Basically it's pretty easy just to use line up those two seams and I know I'm in the middle, or that I have it centered. All right, so my last piece to go in is this little rib that's going to go right in here, somewhere like right about here. But I have to put this on the plan to sort of line it up. So let me go ahead and move things around. Okay, well, what the instructions would have you do is, you can see here's the wing tip, and this little rib is this one right here. This one goes right here in the kind of like back around here somewhere in the wingtip. And what the instructions say is to line the wing back up over the plans, so you can put this is basically where the rib would go. It's kind of hard to see probably from that camera angle. And then you'd go ahead and then set the rib based on laying it over the plans. So the problem is that because the wing has a dihedral in it, it's not going to, when I flip it over, it's not going to lay flat on the building board, so it's not going to line up very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure it. I'm going to measure where it is from both sides, and I'll just use a square to kind of get it in the right location, and I think that'll work fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and measure. I'm going to be measuring from here, inside of the outside of this rib, to the inside of this rib, along this sort of rib that's kind of perpendicular. So I get 1 7/8 of an inch. So I'll just put that on here. All right, so right there. All right, then I'll use my good friend, the square. to put a straight line on here. And of course, this is assuming everything's built straight. I think it's built close enough. So there's our line. And hopefully this guy will fit right here. Now what's going to happen is, because this has it's going to have to be sanded on an angle so that it goes up against this side. But it's going to go like right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some weights down on top of the wing. Because I have the dihedral, I have to kind of hold the wing down straight down onto the building board like this. I'll use a couple of my weights that I have here. And I'll just put them right over the main spar. So this is nice and flat and straight down. And then I can use this block along my line right here. To make my 90-degree orientation, just like that. Okay. And then when I take this rib, it's going to go right like that, and I'll use the block to hold it straight, but then I have to trim that little edge off of there, right, like right there. So let me move over here so I can see what I'm doing. So that'll be just like that. And then I can just kind of look down on top of this. Maybe I'll mark it. I have to hold this thing straight here. I'm going to mark my edge right there. And I'll mark this edge right here. So what you see is there's the line that I drew on this side. Here's the line I drew on the other side. And then I just connected them on the top like that. And that angle should be, unless I completely messed it up. Yeah, that angle is right here now on top. All right, so I hope that made sense. Let me do it one more time to see. So all I did is I put the rib down like this. I marked this of the rib where it engages, or when it meets this outer edge, and then I marked it on the inside of the rib on this side where it meets it. So I marked both of those spots, and then I just drew a line straight up, basically perpendicular up on both sides, and then I just connected them, and that gave me that angle. Okay, so now I'm just going to carefully cut that angle close as I can. And I'll make sure I give myself a little bit of working room to sand it. Like that. And if I didn't screw it up, hopefully, I'll go here. Okay. All right, so I got to take a little teeny weeny bit off. That. So yeah, just about right there like that. All right, so now I'm just going to glue this guy in here. Okay. Okay. And this guy will go right here. This is going to need a little bit of gap filler, I think. Here it goes. Okay. Take this off of here. All right, so let me go ahead and put a blob of gap filler in here. All right, so that's about it for this wingtip. This is the left side. So I'm gonna go ahead and build the other side off camera and then come back and start doing the rough shaping. All right, so I got the other wingtip finished, and now the next step is gonna be to move on to shaping the wingtips and doing sanding and carving of this block, and also sanding the rest of the wing. Okay, so before I start carving this block, I'm going to put a center line along the edge here as a reference point. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this. This is just a plastic see-through ruler. You can use cardstock. You could probably even just use tape. But what I'm going to do here is hopefully not bash up the wing. I'm going to find the center line of the leading edge, which is right here, essentially. Hope I can do this with one hand. And I'm going to bring this around. I'll hold this down here. I'm going to bring this around, and I'm going to find the center line, basically the seam of the wingtips right there. And then I'm just going to draw my line along that. It's going to be a little tricky because I only have one hand. So it's there, and I think I'm right about there. Okay, right there. And here we go. Let's draw this line on here. Okay, and that's my reference point. Now, the other thing I'm going to draw on here is I'm going to actually draw, so this is about a 1/4 inch thick or so. You can kind of see it's about a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little thicker than that. The leading edge has also been blocked off about to about that thickness. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same exact thing. I'm going to see if I can get that sort of lined up also. Let's see here. It was kind of difficult to do this. Right about there. And this is just a reference because when I'm carving, I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to really be very patient and take a little bit off at a time, and I'm just going to kind of approach this edge. I really want to be careful because obviously if you go too far, you can't really put it back, right? So I'm going to give myself lots of room to work with here. It's just that it's a little bit hard to do visually. Right about there, I guess. Probably good. Okay. All right, so that's going to give me just sort of a rough idea of where to the point where I'm trying to get to. Once I get this sort of roughed into this to these outer lines, then those will pretty much match kind of the rough and the blocked off sanded areas of the wing right now. And then at that point, I'll round everything off together. But I just want to get down to this point now, and then the next step after that would be to go ahead, like I just mentioned, to round everything off. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of tape along let's move this back a little bit, right along the sheeting. I'm going to do that just to kind of help protect it as I move forward here. When I'm sanding and such, this is a very thin, and it's already in the location where it needs to be in terms of its shape. So I really don't want to take anything off of that if I don't have to. I may do a little bit depending on how the wingtip block kind of comes out. But like right now, I certainly don't want to kind of sand off that sheeting any more than I need to. I'm just going to put a couple protective pieces of masking tape here. That way when I'm hitting it, I don't, it gives me a little bit of a protection as I'm going across this. Okay, so I'm going to try using this. This is basically a razor saw, but this is actually probably a little bit too big. But the reason I like this is because it's flexible, and it also doesn't have any obstruction. It doesn't have like a frame holding the actual blade that's going to get in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and try this right now. And first thing I'm going to do is kind of make some rough cuts. I'm going to go ahead and follow this surface just straight across. And then I'm going to follow, hopefully come back and come down along this rib that's in here that's kind of tapering down. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to follow that down. And at that point, hopefully I can probably start doing some finer carving and then maybe just sanding. Let me see how I can do though with this guy right here. I need to be careful, and I need to give myself some room. I don't want to go right down to this surface and start cutting, because I want to give myself a little bit of room, because I know I will probably make some mistakes. So let's see how I can do, how this works right here. I'm going to go ahead and just try to lop off this corner. It's kind of hard because I'm trying to get it on video. There we go. And if I wasn't doing this on video, I would probably be doing it outside. Okay, that's good. That's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to lop this off. Do this without cutting my finger. Okay. All right, so I think that's pretty good. Just helps get some of the big material off quickly like that. I don't know if it's going to be the best knife. I may change my blades, change to a different blade as I go here. I think I need a bigger. This guy's kind of need like a longer blade, because you need to be able to kind of get in here, and the housing or whatever you want to call it in the tool kind of gets in the way. I think my blade is kind of dull too. Anyhow, but this is where patience is a virtue. You've got to really take your time and go slow and take a little bit off at a time. This blade is horrible. Hold on, I'm gonna get a better blade. All right, so I got this guy here. I just needed something longer, so now I have the room to sort of navigate this thing here. And I think this probably looks kind of awkward just because of I'm trying to get it on the video, but all I'm going to do now is just kind of take small pieces of this off and work my way down to that line down there. Okay, so as you can see, I got it. I took it down to this top line, and I was just eyeballing it. And I'm using a pretty fine sandpaper. I think this is probably, what does this say here? I don't know. This is a, looks like it says a 320. Maybe it's a 200 or something. Maybe it's 220. But I'm not sure. So I'm not using a very coarse sandpaper. It takes longer, but I also only take off a little bit at a time, and it gives me plenty of time and space to kind of take it down slowly and not overdo it. All right, so basically what I was doing is I was just sort of like I mentioned before, I'm extending this surface straight out. Then I pretty much follow the contour of the rib on this sort of like this wingtip rib, and that's kind of giving me these like blocky kind of geometric sort of like cuts. And then I go back and I knock off the corners of the cuts and such with the sandpaper and just eyeball it and just try to get everything just to kind of blend nicely. So there we go. So what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and I'll work on this lower portion, and then I'll do the same thing on the other wing. And then once those are finished to this point, to the blue lines, then I'll come back like I mentioned and I'll round everything off and blend everything around, and that'll be it for shaping the wing. All right, so I finished sanding down both wing tips, and you can kind of see how I just took it to those blue lines, my reference lines. And I got the same thing on this side over here. You can see there. I left the reference lines in, and now the next step is going to be to basically round off the edge around the entire wing, kind of round it off and blend it all the way around. I'll blend this down a little bit over here, and that should be it for the major kind of sanding and shaping of the wing, and then I can move on from there. All right, so now I'm just going to get my sandpaper. There's my other one over here, and I'm just going to bring this kind of knock this edge off and round off the wing. And what I'll do at this point is this will be my next, obviously this is the center line, and that'll be my next point of reference. And so now I'm going to bring everything down to match that, and then have a little bit of a line again on the leading edge, just because of where the sheets met up. And also there's a little seam on the back here on the trailing edge where these sheets meet up. I mean, I don't really do too much on the trailing edge because it's just kind of, that is what it is. I'll maybe flatten it out a little bit, and I'll just kind of go around and I'll just try to meet that center. Again, I'm just going to eyeball it and take my time. All right, so that's about it for installing the wingtips and doing the sanding and the shaping of them, and also blending that into the wing itself. As you can see, I went around and I rounded off the leading edge all the way around. Took some time to do that, and yeah, I think it looks okay, and we're ready for the next step, which is going to be to fiberglass this middle portion. So anyhow, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching my channel, and we'll see you next time.